have you with us. Tuesday edition of the show. All across America on all your favorite social streaming apps. Also, if you have not done so yet, go and check out our podcast on Spotify. We'll be on other platforms as well, being as today's the first show. We just wanted to make sure we got it up to Spotify. We'll get to some baseball in this program. We will talk NFL. We will preview the AFC East and NFC East. We'll try and do two divisions every day leading up to Thursday. There is tennis. Man, if you have not been watching the U.S. Open, shame on you. It has been so good. And it's my best bet for tonight. We'll get to that coming up a little later on. I've spent more time watching this U.S. Open than I think I have ever spent watching a U.S. Open. I'm a Grand Slam tennis fan. I'm not going to watch, the middle of the rung events in like Cincinnati and stuff like that. But I get into it when it gets to the majors. I will sit down for 4.5 hours like I did last night and watch Zverev and Sinner going at it for 4.5 hours, which didn't get over till almost 2 a.m. for those of you that were on the East Coast. But football is the order of the week. Of course, college football now in full swing. We had plenty of upsets this weekend, one of them taking place in Fort Worth with TCU falling to a Colorado team that won one game last year. They've already matched that total from a year ago. Let's say hello to our good friend Nick Ferguson, who does a great job on all things football, former Denver Bronco, Jet, Texan safety, joins us here on the show. And Nick, we got to start with Colorado. I'll get some NFL stuff in with you as well, but we got to start with Colorado and obviously what took place on Saturday, and Shedeur Sanders putting on a show for the ages to start the season.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Jason. But yeah, I mean, Shedeur Sanders went out and showed that he can definitely play this game. And we heard his comments following the game. Hey, not bad for a guy, and this is me paraphrasing, not bad for a guy who went to an HBCU. And I knew that Shedeur would play well, but I didn't know that he would play, this well. And that tells you a lot about him as a player, but it also tells you go Xavier, I think Xavier Weaver. You had Jim Horn Jr. Yeah, you have Travis Hunter, who I guess right now by his accounts and CU Buzz fans' accounts, he's leading the Heisman votes now. We still have to wait to see how that works out. But just the speed they had. And, Dylan Edwards was a guy that no one was really talking about. We were hearing about Dion, the program, and Shedeur and all of those guys, but no one was talking about Dylan Edwards, and he came out and he showed exactly what he can do. He had 4 touchdowns on the day, 3 receiving and 1 rushing. And he came like he was shot out of a cannon. So that was kind of the biggest surprise, but knowing as though that you have a quarterback, you may not have one of those top offensive lines in college football, but you have several weapons outside the numbers that you can deploy and you can count on every single week. That is going to be something that's going to shock a lot of people as we move forward in this college football season.
How much does this change the expectation level? I mean, you and I talked last week, and I think we were talking about, 4 to 6 wins was realistic. I mean, this is a great win, but at the same time now, people are going to be expecting more, And if you have a win like this, and then all of a sudden you still wind up, with 4 wins or 5 wins on the season, does it become a disappointment? Is this as much an indictment on TCU as it is on, shining a light on what Colorado is doing? How do you balance those things?
Well, this is more about CU and who they are opposed to what most wins, but I think it's 3.5 wins on the season. So they're already, on that path of surpassing just that. And when you are Deion Sanders coach teams, the expectations are going to continue to go up. And those naysayers who doubted Coach Prime, guess what? Just because they won against TCU, they're still out there hovering. They can't wait for the other shoe to drop. So Coach Prime said it himself, and he knows it. I mean, it's about the guys that he's coaching. It's about that community that they built. And those are the only people that you can rely on, because the rumors, the naysayers, the whispers are going to be out there. So they just have to go out there and get it done. And they got a big game this Saturday against Nebraska.
Yeah, and really, we talked about it. I talked to you on the phone a little bit last night. I mean, we're talking about the first 3 games are out there for them. They could be 3-0. We were talking about a 4 to 6 win team. They could be 3-0 out of the gate.
Yeah, that is a reality now. And when you look at the expectations, that's what most Bucs fans figure. Because to me, no one gave them a chance to beat TCU. Let's be totally honest. I mean, Tom Luginbill said that, CU had the worst roster in college football. And maybe you can thank Luginbill for putting that out there, because I'm sure Coach Prime probably played that for his guys, and that gave them extra motivation, but they really don't need that. They're trying to go out there and overcome that 1-11 season from last year. And we have to look at this new roster as a brand new roster. And the fact that they went in to TCU, won that game, 17th ranked TCU, you got to feel, man, that does a lot for a program and a lot of confidence. But I'll also add this, JP, is just the fact that recruiting, this now has changed the landscape and expectations for CU as far as recruiting, because that's one of the reasons Deion went to CU. He wanted to recruit Florida. He wanted to recruit California, but more importantly, Texas. And a win like that, to me, man, that is something that you can build your program around.
All right, you're in Denver, so I got to ask you about the Broncos here as we get ready for the start of the season. They do not have an easy schedule coming out of the gate. Look, they're going to have to get some wins here and try and set a tone. It almost felt like game 1 of last season set the tone for everything that was to come, with the way Nathaniel Hackett sort of mismanaged the end of that opening game of the season. What do you expect out of the Broncos based on what you've seen in the preseason so far, given the fact they've had some injury issues at the receiver position? Give me some thoughts on where we are as week 1 gets set to commence. At least the one thing you could say with this Broncos team, Nick, is the fact that they played their guys in the preseason. Russell Wilson was out there playing. So many of these NFL teams, we didn't even see Joe Burrow. Didn't even have a preseason, basically. And he's going to be expected to go out there in week 1 and shine. At least Russell Wilson's had some taste of what working with Sean Payton in this offense is going to be like.
Yeah, he's had some real game time experience, with Sean Payton and what he wants to play. Your quarterback. But I'll say this. What we saw last year, Monday Night Football, the first game of the season on the road, as Russell Wilson returned to Seattle, we're not going to see the same thing, this year in the game 1 here at home. against the Las Vegas Raiders, because we know Sean Payton is not going to hesitate when it comes to getting the plays in and out. When it comes to a long field goal, he's not going to say, well, we're going to give it to Brendan McManus to kick a field goal that clearly was outside of his range. He now has Will Lutz, a guy who he's familiar with. So if it came down to something like that, a lot of the confidence is there. And I also add this. You mentioned injuries. There's some injuries at the wide receiver position.
Sure.
When you look at, who's up and who's expected to start, you got like maybe 4 wide receivers. But this is why things may be a little different as Josh McDaniels and the Raiders prepare for the Broncos. How do you prepare for a team and you don't really know what they're going to do because they have a lot of tight ends on this roster? Could we see, more 12 personnel? We don't know, but I know it's going to be one hell of a game on Sunday.
It's always fun to ask this question because at the end of the day, I mean, there are going to be so many ebbs and flows to a season, injuries, all of that. All things being equal, where they are right now, what's a realistic expectation in terms of win total, ability to be a wild card team? Tell me what you're thinking when it comes to the Broncos.
Well, for me, it's 10 wins.
Wow, you're going double digits, huh?
Why do you seem so shocked by 10 wins? Let me guess. You're looking back at what happened last year, and what did we hear all last year? This whole term about Russell Wilson being washed. Look, I'm also looking at the second half of his final season in Seattle with the Seahawks too. Yeah, but when you look at that, break that down even further. What was going on in Seattle? Their offensive line wasn't that great, and they had running backs who were injured, so they couldn't run the ball. Those are 2 things that are key when you're trying to determine the success of any quarterback, not just Russell Wilson. So those 2 things not in place, you're going to struggle. Once again, the idea is that, hey, you've upgraded the offensive line. Javonte Williams is back. Samaje Perine, you added him to the roster. So you want to run the ball to take the pressure off of Russell, but still open up things downfield. That's why I'm giving them an opportunity to win 10 games with the possibility of winning more.
Wow. Going big. Go big or go home. It's fine.
Hey, it's the idea, right?
Yeah, I'm going under 10. I think okay. I don't think 8 or 9 is out of the realm of possibility. And it'll be interesting to see how they start off because early in the season, so many of these teams, it almost feels like the preseason really extends into the first 2 or 3 games of the regular season because so few guys play during the preseason now. So it's almost as if every year I wind up saying this, early season NFL football is tough to watch. It really is because it's sloppy. There's penalties. Everybody's kind of trying to get a feel. Look at the Packers last year with Aaron Rodgers in that receiving corps. Now, again, some of that's on him because he didn't want to work out with those guys in the offseason. But you watch the way the game is played during the preseason and early on in the season. It's such a different game by the time you get to week 7, week 8, when guys are finally starting to get comfortable with each other. Rookies who are used to playing in college that are now playing NFL games. And there's a lot of these guys on the roster. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Nick Ferguson, I always appreciate it, my friend. We'll do it throughout the season. Thank you, sir.
See you.
Nick Ferguson, he is Denver's finest, baby. All right, stick around. We're coming back. Lots more to do, including a chat with Sam Yarnell, our Prince of Picks, our sports handicapping expert here on the Cash In. We'll get some thoughts with him. Also, a little baseball and NFL preview as we continue on the Cash In. We got a birthday boy on the show coming up in a few minutes. We'll get to that. Sam Yarnell will stop by. Get some thoughts with him on the sports betting news of the day, of which there is always plenty. Boy, oh boy. How about if you had Duke or Colorado on the money line this weekend, huh? Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting weekend in college football. If that doesn't get you excited about the college football season, nothing will. And I'm not a huge college football guy. I'm always the first to admit it. But if that doesn't get you pumped up for college football season, I don't know what will. U.S. Open. Listen, if you have not been watching the U.S. Open, I said this at the top of the show today, you are missing out in an enormous way. The U.S. Open has been so much fun. I mean, the run of Ben Shelton, which we'll talk about at the end of the show today, this 20-year-old, soon to be 21, I think, in October, who I think is the future of American tennis, based on what I've watched. And we'll talk about it again at the end of the show. But, you know, everybody thinks it's a fait accompli. It's Alcaraz and it's Djokovic. And that's the final we're going to get, and that's it. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of good Americans that are still left in this thing. It would not be shocking at all if we wound up with an American playing in the finals of this U.S. Open. And that hasn't happened in a long time. 2009 was the last time an American was in a final in a Grand Slam. And wait until I give you the numbers at the end of the show, because it's beyond staggering just how absent from Grand Slam championship winning tennis the United States has been. Doesn't mean the sport hasn't been exciting, but let's be honest. You know, certain sports are better when certain teams are in the mix. When the Rangers are good, you know, it's better for hockey. When the Lakers are good, it's better for the NBA, regardless who's on the team. As much as people hate to talk about the Yankees and Red Sox, when the Yankees and Red Sox are good and they're playing against each other, it's better for baseball. When the Dodgers are good, it's better for baseball. And when American tennis is at its best, it's going to be better for ratings. It's going to be better for revenues. It's going to be better for everybody. So the fact that we've watched for so many years as American men's tennis has languished, it goes without saying that we're potentially on the precipice, I think, of a next golden era for American men's tennis. And if you've watched this U.S. Open, you'd realize that that is the case. It has been as good as it could possibly be. And we're only into, you know, the kind of the start of week 2 here. And the big match tonight, Tiafoe and Ben Shelton, it's going to be the best thing on television. It's not even close. There isn't anything to compare. I don't care. You can give me playoff baseball all you want, you know, pennant race baseball, wild card race baseball. This match tonight, which I'm going to talk about again at the end of the show, but I had to talk about it here for just a second, is going to be thoroughly entertaining to watch. All right, Major League Baseball. All of a sudden, the Yankees are good again. Huh? Come on, they've won 6 of 7. How about the Bombers, baby? The baby Bombers have shown up, and all of a sudden, the Yankees are good. And Jason Dominguez is going to be Rookie of the Year. I'm just having some fun. But it is good to see the Yankees playing better again. And with Garrett Cole going again today, look, you can get the Yankees, I think, at plus 100,000 on FanDuel. I will keep saying this until the cows come home. What's a $10 bet on the Yankees at plus 100,000? What's a $10 bet? I mean, if they win, you win stupid money for putting a stupid bet. But who knows? Maybe the Yankees have a run in them here in September and can somehow wind up leapfrogging 7,000 teams to become a wild card team. All right. Maybe I'm dreaming. One of my favorite things we will do on this show every day is talk about sports betting. And if we're going to talk about sports betting, we're going to do it with this guy.
And now the Cash In presents, it's Cash Cow, the Prince of Picks, Sam Yarnell.
Oh, my mic wasn't on. This is the birthday boy, Sam Yarnell. See, I did all that for nothing. I did this grand introduction for nothing. Sam Yarnell is the Prince of Picks. He had his birthday yesterday. He played 36 holes of golf. How'd you hit him?
Not as straight as I would have liked, Jason, but it's okay. We made it out only spending, I think, 1 case of balls. So
One case of balls? Come on, man.
12 balls, 36 holes. I'll take it. Is
there a lot of water? I hope there was a lot of water on the course.
Yeah, both of the courses I was playing had a lot of water. One of them is actually really cool, and we'll get into this really quick before the sports betting, but one of them is actually 18 holes, probably about 45 minutes outside of DC. And every hole is a remake of a famous hole in golf. So they've got 3 holes that are a perfect replica of Amen Corner. They've got number 6 at Medina. They've got holes from St. Anne's and the Royal Liverpool Club. So it was really cool to experience. But yeah, lost a lot of balls playing with all those challenging holes.
I'm jealous. I live in the golf capital of the world, and I barely ever play. It's a shame.
But you got the golf clubs behind you, man. You got to break them out sometime.
Yeah. I got to get my staff bag somewhere. It's somewhere around here. All right, what do you got for me, Sam?
All right, well, I think, Jason, you may have looked at my notes before. Even though we're on opposite sides of the country, I think that you came into my studio here and looked at my notes before you did that grand entrance, because the third thing on my list to talk about is verbatim, the Yankees need to blow it up. It has just gotten so bad in New York. And I think that the fan base telling the organization that these baby bombers are going to be the new hope for
baby bombers.
This organization that's let the fan base down for a decade and a half, basically, right? 14 years of just disappointment out of the New York Yankees. And now we've got another new hope. I remember back in, I think, 2016, when Aaron Judge was a rookie, and this was exactly what they said then. And what happened? ALCS loss, didn't make the playoffs, ALCS loss. We've seen this story before, Jason. The Yankees, they just need to blow it up. The AL East belongs to the Baltimore Orioles for years to come.
The funny thing is about your Orioles point, I've been saying even before this year, because I knew what was in their pipeline. And they've hit on every prospect so far. Even if they only hit on half of these prospects, they were going to be amazing. And the best is still yet to come with Jackson Holliday, Heston Kjerstad, who's down there tearing it up, Kobe Mayo, who's down there. It's embarrassing the riches that organization has in the minors. They are going to be great for years to come. But don't sleep on the Yankees, because the Yankees will spend money. Now, they may not spend it wisely. Josh Donaldson, Aaron Hicks, but they will spend. Which one?
I said Aaron Hicks, Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah, and of course now he's hitting well because he's not in New York. Joey Gallo even hit a home run yesterday for the Twins. Then again, I think everybody hit a home run yesterday for the Twins because they put a thumping on the Indians. And my poor man, Lucas Giolito's my guy, but he made history of the wrong kind yesterday. Did you hear about this? He is the first. He is the
line score.
He is the first major league pitcher since 1899. I hate having to say this. I hope he doesn't listen to the podcast. First pitcher since 1899 to give up 8 runs in a single game for 3 different teams in a season.
In a season?
In a season. Yeah, he gave it for the White Sox, the Angels, and the Indians. Now, he's had games where he's given up at least 8 runs, at least once. That's... Again, you could watch baseball for 115 years and you wouldn't have seen that.
Well, and a real baseball fan knows that, it comes to a point where that's just bad luck. There's a luck element in it at that point. When you have that many bad starts with 3 different teams in a season, come on. And we know Lucas Giolito's a good pitcher who can get it done, so... Yeah,
costing himself a lot of money in the second half of this season, though. Because at the All-Star break, he was looking at buku bucks in the offseason, and now...
He's going to have to fight for a roster spot next year.
This last month of the season, I don't know about fighting for a roster spot. Somebody's going to give him a shot, but this last month of the season, He's pitching for a lot of money. Forget the Indians making the playoffs. Oh, Jesus. He's not going to the Nationals. You can't have everybody.
What? Having Lucas Giolito qualifies as having everybody now? What a world we live in.
Yeah. You're going to be going for Shohei Ohtani, too?
No. I wouldn't touch Shohei Ohtani. With that elbow issue, don't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
What else you got?
So listen, we just talked about the Orioles. They're still plus 390 to win the AL on FanDuel, Jason. I love that bet. I've told you this before. The Orioles were my biggest preseason play of the season. I was all over their win total at 77.5. That's already cashed for me. So let's use a little bit of that profit and put it on the Orioles to win the AL because they're the hottest team in baseball right now. I am falling in love with this Baltimore Orioles team, and that's coming from a diehard Washington Nationals fan.
I'm in the same boat. I've been in love because like I said, I had been so following their prospects because as I always like to talk about, I'm a card collector. So I just happened to land on a ton of their prospects. And oh yeah, Heston Kjerstad, I got like autos of him. Kobe Mayo, I got autos of him. I foolishly sold my Gunnar Henderson auto. Because I thought Josh Young was going to be the AL Rookie of the Year. Like 2 weeks after I sold the Gunnar Henderson auto, what happens? Josh Young gets hurt. Gunnar Henderson's going to be your AL Rookie of the Year. That card's going to be worth good money, and I will have just basically given it away for next to nothing. Yeah.
That's tough.
Poor life decisions, man. Poor life decisions.
Elsewhere, Jason, we got a crazy situation in the AL West right now. I do not know how this AL West is going to finish up. One game separates 3 teams between the Astros, the Mariners, and the Rangers here. And quite frankly, I don't think I want to touch any of these teams in terms of postseason betting and futures. No, seriously, because I think between the 3 of them battling for who wins the division and who doesn't have to play in a wild card series, I think that that's going to take a lot out of them. And if I had to choose one of those 3 to bet on right now, it would be the Mariners just because they're heating up at the right time. Then I'd bet on the Astros because they've got the postseason experience and they've proven themselves. But Dusty Baker kind of losing his edge as a manager.
Yeah.
And the Rangers, I don't believe in the Rangers this year. Anyway, the AL West is crazy. Who are you picking to bet on out of the 3?
Seattle. I'll still go with Seattle. Yeah, I like Seattle up and down. They may have peaked a little too early, though. That's the only problem for Seattle. And look, they were dead in the water coming out of the All-Star break, but I still think it's Seattle. And look, I've started to see, pretty prominent people in Houston that work in the sports writing world that are saying Dusty's got to go.
Yeah.
Boy, you want to talk about like short memories. Like the dude helped deliver a World Series last year. And they're like, Dusty's got to go. Like the age of having like a grace period after winning a championship or a division, those days are done. And you could ask a lot of guys in the NBA about it. All right, Sam, stand by. We'll be coming back to you shortly. That is Sam Yarnell, the Prince of Picks. Find him on Twitter, X now, formerly known as Twitter. You can find him there at Sam_Yarnell. All right, when we continue with the show, an AFC and NFC East preview. What does it look like on the betting side? Who do we like to win the divisions? All of that as we continue the cash in. Good to be with you on this Tuesday. All right. have you back with us on this Tuesday edition of the Cash In. I'm debating whether I want to keep the text line for the show. I had it for the radio show, but I don't know if it's really necessary for this. I have to think about it. Still to come, I got some things to say about tennis and what I think is the best bet of the night when it comes to your viewing pleasure tonight. And I'll give you a hint. It was the same thing I was watching last night. How's that for you? So we'll get to that coming up. More with Sam Yarnell in a few minutes as well. Got to get to the future of Shohei Ohtani, too. Because his agent is saying one thing, and I just think it's all for show, no pun intended. It's all for show. Somebody's putting their head in their hand as I make that terrible pun, not pun. All right, let's preview the AFC and the NFC East for a few minutes on the show today. And look, I mean, you got two divisions. And I'll be curious to get Sam's thoughts on this in a few minutes when he joins us to talk about, sort of the betting side of it. I got to be honest. I think this AFC East is going to be so much fun, which is crazy because other than the Patriots, who will still find a way to beat the Jets twice this year, because as long as Bill Belichick is breathing, that team will figure out a way to beat the Jets twice in any given season, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter what the expectations are for the Jets. The Jets have a brutally tough schedule to start the season. Buffalo's coming in, with people sort of scratching their heads, some disappointment last year, the season before being so good, expectations for Josh Allen and that team. Miami with Tua Tagovailoa and the questions about whether or not he can keep himself healthy. Can he stay on the field for 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 games? He did these things where he learned how to fall during the offseason. He took these different fighting lessons that sort of gave him some perspective on how to properly fall and not hurt himself. What does Tua Tagovailoa look like? Because if that Miami team stays healthy in some relative degree for an entire season, how do you pick against Miami to win the division? They're going to be better defensively. Miami is a scary team. But it's scary because it's all predicated on the health of Tua Tagovailoa and whether or not he can stay healthy for an entire season. The Jets are going to be good, but they have a brutal schedule coming out of the gate. They could be, if they're 3-3 through the first 6, I think Robert Saleh might actually be happy. As good as that division is, could 11 games win that division? If you think about it, because they all got to play each other twice. The schedules aren't easy for that division. And, when you go and stack them all up, 11, as good as that division is, it could produce, potentially, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you could have a Super Bowl winner out of the AFC out of the AFC East that only wins 11 games during the regular season. A team that doesn't just have like a monster win total just because that division is so stacked. So I think the AFC is a fascinating watch. I got to be honest. I could put my finger up in the air and and see which way the wind is blowing, because I think any of those three teams that we just talked about, the Patriots notwithstanding, I think any of those three teams are honestly very capable of winning the division. And while I'll give you a guess as to who I think is going to win that division right now, there's going to be so many things that take place over the next 18 weeks of the NFL season. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's, going to lose a big receiver or a big running back or a big defensive piece. I'm going to go with Miami, which might be a surprise to some. But I think Tua manages to stay healthy for the season. I think Miami wins the division. I think they're going to be a juggernaut offensively. As it relates to the NFC, I am, I think the Eagles can only go backwards from where they were last year. Unless you believe that this year they're going to make some. I don't know how they could be better than they were last year. They might win the division. And I think the Cowboys will be in the mix as long as Dak is healthy. Remember, last year they actually played pretty well without him, with Cooper Rush at quarterback. But I have major questions about whether or not Dak has learned anything from last year and whether he can avoid turning over the football. People who watched him in training camp, you watch him in the preseason, he's still turning the football over. If you can't take care of the rock in this league, you're putting your team at such a disadvantage. I have major questions about that. Now, the Giants are an interesting story here. Last year, they proved all the naysayers wrong. Daniel Jones played his best season as a quarterback in the NFL. His combined rushing and passing statistics were really good. I like the addition of a solid tight end for that team. Saquon getting into camp, putting all the money stuff aside, and making sure he's there for this team. If the Giants are healthy, I still don't see any reason why they can't be a wild card team. They're not winning the division, though. Let's just put that out of our minds. Philadelphia is the class of that division. Washington, Sam Howell, good luck. We did a thing on the show last week, which quarterback might lose his starting job first due to bad play, and Sam Howell was the guy we had at the top of the list. So I'll take the Eagles to win the division. I think the Giants will be a wild card team again. I don't know, and look, the next chapter in growth or the next step in growth for Daniel Jones is going to determine how far they go. Because now, when you get the kind of money that Daniel Jones got in this offseason, and I've said this before, you now have to be able to win games with your arm. It can't just be running around or handing the ball to Saquon Barkley. And we're going to find out if he can. Now, you can make the argument that he's never really had the pieces at receiver in order to be able to win. Some guys need great receivers to make them better. Some quarterbacks make average receiving cores look really good. I think Daniel Jones is more the former than the latter. He needs those high-impact receivers in order to elevate his game. I don't know if the Giants have those guys, but I do think they'll be a wild card team. All right. Without any further ado, we bring back our good friend Sam Yarnell, who does a terrific job on all things sport betting here on the show. All right, Sam, AFC East, NFC East. What do you like? What don't you like?
Whoa. Well, what I don't like, Jason, is the Miami Dolphins.
Come on. Did you just come on to disagree with me? Is it Disagree Tuesday?
We got to keep the people happy, and people love disagreement. But no, I really like the Dolphins are, I think this is going to sound a little foolish. I know it will. But there's a script I could write. There's a script I think we could all write where the Dolphins finish this year in last in the division and the Patriots finish above them.
Is that a Tua injury thing? Okay.
Totally. But
I can say the same if the Jets lose Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
that's true. And you could, and I think that's also something that needs to be considered, right? But the Tua injury thing, and this is what I think so many of us in the media don't give the due that it should be given, is the Tua injury thing is something that we've never seen before. This is a guy who pretty much knows if he gets another concussion, it's a career evaluation move that has to be made, right? And concussions are only getting more frequent in the NFL in 2023 as they did in 2022, as they did in 2021. I think that, and this is going to sound very, very, chalky, but I really think the Jets are probably the best bet to win the AFC East right now.
It's a safe pick.
The Bills, you're not getting enough value at plus 120. I do think the Bills will win the division when all is said and done.
What are the Jets? What's the Jets
number? The Jets are plus 250 and the Dolphins are plus 290. If the Dolphins were 5-1, I'd like the Dolphins. But with the volatility at quarterback, I can't see it. The New York Jets have one of the easiest rest advantages in the NFL this season. It's a metric that my friend Warren Sharp came up with, and you can go read all about it on his website. But the gist of it is the Jets have more time between games on average than other NFL teams do. They have more time to prepare. So like you said, they do have a very hard schedule, and the AFC East was tasked with difficult opponents this year. The Bills obviously having to play a first place schedule will have the most difficult schedule in the division, but the New York Jets are, despite having to play these difficult teams, they're going to have more time to prepare. So I think the Jets are kind of being handed this situation by the NFL to walk to the AFC East Championship. And when you look at so if you look at their schedule, it's basically 7 days between every single game, and their only Thursday night game is Washington on Sunday, Christmas Eve. Then on Thursday, December 28th, they'll play at Cleveland. So like even when they do have a short week, it's Washington and Cleveland, and that's week 16 and 17. Do we really think those teams are going to look anything like what they do now at that point in the year? No, they're not. NFC East, speaking of the Commanders, kind of the same thing. I like laying the juice with the Eagles at -115 because Dak Prescott is not a quarterback that can lead a team to a division championship. He throws too many interceptions. We'll get into that in a later segment, but I hate the Cowboys this year. I'm so low on the Cowboys this year, and maybe I'll put my foot in my mouth at the end of the season, but I don't think they're going to even compete for this NFC East. Lay the -115 with the Eagles, but if you're not comfortable doing that, I like a flyer on the Commanders or, even the Giants. Giants are 7-1, Commanders are 13-1. Hey, if you're going to burn money like by putting it on the Cowboys, you might as well burn it and have some fun by putting it on the Commanders.
I'd put $10 on the Yankees at plus 100,000 before I did that.
Oh, me too. Me too. Definitely. But we're talking football.
Yeah, we are talking football. And I Sam Howell's a big question mark. I mean, you're right there in the nation's capital. Does there seem to be any positive vibe on him?
Very, very. I would say in the local media, everyone seems to be high on him.
Is it that they're rooting for him, or they actually think he can be the savior?
No, it seems like people have actually seen that he's kind of taken away pieces from all the different quarterbacks he's shared a room with, because you think about how many quarterbacks he's been around, started with Carson Wentz, then it was Taylor Heineke, Jacoby Brissett's in there too. You throw in all the oddballs. I think Mark Sanchez spent a week in that quarterback room as well at one point with Sam Howell. So, it's very interesting. At 13-1, it's worth the risk, in my opinion, right? Because there's a chance that he comes out and he shows out and he's this awesome quarterback that no one knew he was going to be. And I think it's worth it at 13-1 more than I think that we know Dak Prescott's going to throw 17 to 20 interceptions this year.
All right, we'll come back with Sam. We'll get his best bets for this Tuesday edition of the show, this September 5th edition of the show. I'll get the day right. It's the first show. I'll get the day right. But as we continue, I want to get to that. I got to talk a little bit about my best bet of the night from a viewing standpoint. We'll get to that as well. All as we continue on this Tuesday edition. It's the Cash In. Good to have you with us. Welcome me back to this Tuesday edition of the show. Good to be hanging out with all of you. We will be here Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern on all of these social media viewing platforms. Who knows? Might see us somewhere else beyond that soon enough. You could also listen to the show. There's an audio version of this show available. Monday through Friday, the podcast edition of The Cash In will be available shortly after the show ends over on Spotify. So if you are feeling so inclined and like to consume the show in that form, you're obviously welcome to do so. I'll bring back Sam here in just a second. Major League Baseball has been, look, here we are, and we were just talking about it before in terms of, the AL West being so wide open. You still got the NL Central that is up for grabs. The AL West is wrapped up. I mean, the AL East is I don't want to say it's wrapped up, but AL East, it looks pretty good for Baltimore right now. The AL Central, Minnesota is up, I think, 6 on the Guardians, and they've got 2 more games left with each other here in this series that they're in the midst of. The NL East has been a wrap for a while. You've still got tons of possibilities as far as the wild card races are concerned. Heck, in the NL West right now, you basically got 5 teams tied for the 3 spots that are open there. So there is a lot to sort of play out. There's a lot to play out over the last several weeks of this. To sort of seeing what transpires there. All right, we might not have been on while I was saying that. My apologies if we weren't. So anyway, we're working out some of the technical stuff with this as I sort of man the engineering side of it and all the video directing as well as what we're doing. All right, I want to get to tennis coming up to close out the show in a few minutes. Sam Yarnell is here. He's going to be hanging out with us weekdays. Where he could sort of fit it into his busy schedule because he's a busy guy. So Sam's hanging out with us today. Are you going to be here tomorrow? Are you free tomorrow? You going to be here tomorrow?
Yes, I will be here tomorrow.
Okay, I'm just checking. All right, best bets of the day with
Jason, we're running out of time to get those NFL futures in. The futures markets close when paying days here. Thursday, right around 8 o'clock. Maybe it's 8:40 on the East, whenever that game kicks off. Anyway, get your NFL futures in now because the prices are only going to get worse. And I'm going to give you some winners that you'll be able to cash come January, February. All right, here we go. First one, the Kansas City Chiefs to go undefeated in the AFC West is plus 650 over on FanDuel. Now, this just seems like a little bit of a missed number to me. We really think the Chiefs aren't going to be able to beat the Raiders and the Broncos 4 times. That's kind of a given, in my opinion, at least. And then the Chargers, to me, this comes down to the Chargers. And quite frankly, I think you'll get deep enough into the season where you'll be at a point to hedge. You know what I mean? When the Chiefs are 3-0 through 13 weeks, you can bet whenever they're playing an AFC West opponent, bet on the AFC West opponent, or at least bet on the AFC West opponent to cover, because odds are they aren't going to be the favorite. So if you're getting points, then you open up the door to a best of both worlds. The team, say the Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos, they cover and lose, then you're still in on this ticket, and you already cashed a ticket on the game itself. I love this bet, Jason, for the Chiefs to go undefeated in the AFC West. What do you think about it?
I didn't think you liked to garden. I thought you weren't a gardener. I thought you like to leave hedging to the gardeners. That's what you always tell me, and now you're telling me.
There who like to guarantee profit. That's all it is.
They're playing it safe, is what you're saying. They'd rather win $7 instead of $700. That guy. That's who you're, or that woman. That's who you're talking to, because women make up one of the largest growing segments of the sports betting population. So I don't want to cut them out of the mix. No, they're not winning. They're not going undefeated. I wouldn't even touch that bet. They're not going undefeated.
AFC West?
No. You don't realize how tough it is to win on the road in the NFL. Winning on the road in the NFL is tough. Even against the best teams, winning on the road in the NFL is tough. By the way, we don't even know what's going on with Chris Jones over there. He's holding out. Nobody knows when Chris Jones is ever coming back to the Kansas City Chiefs. By the way, he's kind of important. No, and the Chargers will figure out one way, to win one game against that team. I just had Nick Ferguson on the show today, and Nick's high. He thinks Denver can win 10 games. If they're winning 10 games or more, he said 10 or more, he could see them winning. And if that's the case, I'm sure one of them is going to be against the Chargers. No, I wouldn't even touch that bet. I'll tell you what, if you want to make that bet through me, I would give you the odds. Okay. I'd give it to you. What is it? What's it? Plus 650?
Plus 650. Yeah, that's correct.
I would, if I were the book, I'd gladly take that bet because I don't think they're going undefeated in the division.
So Broncos over 9.5 wins. Just wanted to throw this out there for our boy.
Under.
I'm
going under. Yes.
I know. No. I'm just saying if they were to win 10 games, right? Theoretically.
That feels
plus
high
190.
to me. That feels
plus 190 high. Over 9.5 wins for the Broncos.
That number feels so high to me. For a team that was so bad last year, that's had issues in the receiving game. And I'm sorry. I think Russell Wilson I think he's lost it. And it's not what it's. As I was saying to Nick Ferguson, it's not as much what he's done, what he did last year, as much as what happened in the second half of the season against when he was with Seattle. The signs were there then. And if you want to make the argument, well, the offensive line, you know what? Every team's got issues on the offensive line with the exception of just a few. So you know what? If the offensive line's the problem and he can't overcome that because he's not the Russell Wilson of 7 or 8 years ago or even 4 or 5 years ago, I'm sorry, that sucks. But no, they're not winning 9.5 games. Book it.
Yeah,
they are not winning 9.5 games.
Season win total's 8.5 right now. I'd probably even go under that. I'm not drinking the Sean Payton Kool-Aid. I don't like the Broncos again this year. Who do they have? Right, Jerry Jeudy injury concerns. Who do they have? All right, next, futures winner. That I love this one. This one I'm very confident in, Jason. Worst regular season record, Arizona Cardinals, plus 250. Give it to me. Who else is going to be as bad as the Arizona Cardinals?
There's an easy answer to that. You know the answer to that.
The Tampa Bay Bucks?
Yes, absolutely. Tampa Bay is going to be the worst team in football.
I think Tampa Bay will win more games over Carolina and probably Atlanta than Arizona will win on the season. I think they probably beat Atlanta once and Carolina once, and I really think the Cardinals win one game all year.
Tampa Bay.
I think the Cardinals win one game all year.
One game? So do you think Kyler Murray's not coming back? That they just rest him for the year and get the draft pick?
Trade him.
You think they're going to trade him? Yeah, could be. Atlanta.
I think they're going to trade him, and I think they're going to want to get up into the area around where Caleb Williams is because it's an organization that kind of falls for that trend, right? That, this guy's with this narrative coming out of college. Let's go all in for him and do whatever we can to build a winner around him. And we see how that's worked out this last time. No, I think the Cardinals are going to be horrible this year. Obviously, the book agrees with me. Hey, if you like the Bucks to be the worst team, though, plus 850, I might touch that. I think
wait a second.
Yeah.
They're that high to be the worst? Oh, my God. I would lay that. Talk about value bets. You got to get your value. And the Buccaneers at plus 850? Sign me up.
It's the Bucs defense. That's what it is. It's the Bucs defense is keeping them, it'll keep them at least competitive in a couple of games.
Here's the problem with that. If your offense is so bad and your defense is on the field all game, I don't care how good your defense is. It's going to struggle. By the end of the season, you've worn out your welcome as an offense. You've got guys on the offense bickering with guys on the defense because guys on the defense are saying the offense isn't keeping them off the field enough. That, oh my God, I would jump all over Tampa Bay at plus 850. I love that bet.
Let me throw another one by you. What do you think about either the Texans or the Rams? Both are 10-1.
Mm-hmm.
So for either of them to have the worst record this season, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about this bet and what would have to happen for them to be worse than the Cardinals. It's Cooper Kupp not playing all year, Matt Stafford getting injured and going into retirement for the Rams, right? And then for the Texans, it would have to be Stroud not panning out at all or getting injured early in the season, maybe, but I might get involved on one of those two at 10-1.
I think the Rams are more likely because that division, the division the Texans are in, I think, there's going to be some winnable games in there, even as bad as they were last year. They were in a lot of games late. That team wasn't getting their doors blown off every week. Whereas I think the Rams playing in that division have the bigger potential if the things you're talking about with Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford pan out. I think they could wind up being worse than the Texans, even though they might actually be a better team because of the division they're in. I think it could play out with them being worse. I still don't think either of them wind up being the worst team in football, though. 10-1.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a bad value.
Right.
It's not a bad value bet. I mean, if you do game it out and try to convince yourself that, hey, these things are going to happen, then yeah, it could happen.
Okay. We'll get to Dak Prescott last. There's one I want to throw in right before. It's Quentin Johnston, the Chargers receiver, to have the most rookie receiving yards this season, plus 750 over on FanDuel. Now, I get it. This is a stacked rookie wide receiver core. We got Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. So many. But here's the thing. You have to think about target share in all of these offenses. Smith and Jigba, right? In that Seattle offense. Still got to deal with DK Metcalf. Still got to, deal with all the guys that Geno Smith's going to throw the ball to, along with the running game, Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet this year. Don't think he's going to get a lot of the ball. Zay Flowers has to deal with Odell Beckham Jr. on the other side of him. Lamar Jackson running the ball. Don't think Zay Flowers is going to get as much of the ball as Quentin Johnston will. We know that this Chargers receiving core, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, they are injury prone as injury prone gets. And Quentin Johnston will be the wide receiver 1 on that team by the end of the season. He will lead that team in receiving yards, and he'll lead all rookies in receiving yards this year. Plus 750, they're giving money away. Book it. I can't cash the ticket for you.
Yeah, it's not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet at all. Player prop bets always scare me, though. It's just there's so many intangibles, and there's just the hardest thing to predict is injury. And if you miss just a few games, it could be the difference maker between. He could still be the best receiver in this core, in this crop of receivers, and if he just misses a few games, it obviously throws everything into chaos. Y'all done?
I got one more.
All right, give me one more.
We touched on it a little bit. We were talking about the NFC East earlier. It's Dak Prescott to throw the most interceptions this season. I feel like, this one might just be a fun one because I like rooting against
What's
the Cowboys.
Number?
10-1.
What?
It's 10-1 on FanDuel for Dak Prescott to throw the most interceptions this year. It's giving money away.
Is there a number for Sam Howell too?
They're all 10-1. Actually, Sam Howell may be higher. All of the favorites were tied at 10-1. I'll try to pull up the season special for it right now, but
Dak Prescott has to be the bet there. It has to be.
He's got to be. There's no question. It's like he was tied with Davis Mills actually for the lead in interceptions last season, but you're giving me that at 10-1. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and he missed like 4 or 5 games and he was tied with Davis Mills. We're talking about a situation here where Dak Prescott obviously has to prove a lot of naysayers wrong that he's capable of protecting the football. I don't think he is. I would ride with that at 10-1.
And I think they spent. Oh no, here we go. Yep, 10-1 for. So everyone who I'm about to say is 10-1.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield, all 10-1. You mentioned Sam Howell. Sam Howell's 18-1 to lead the league in regular season interceptions this year.
Here's the only thing that could throw a monkey wrench into that Dak Prescott bet. If he's really bad early on and they lose games and he's throwing a lot of interceptions, does he even make it all season as starting quarterback? Do they turn to Trey Lance?
Trey Lance is their third string.
All right, Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush?
And look, they've won games with him, and people are going to be calling for it. I'm just saying the scenario. Look, you like to game out these different scenarios on how we can get to A, B, C, D. I'm just saying, if he's that bad, you think they're going to ride with him all season? If he's throwing a ton of interceptions and they're 3-4 or or 3-5, and you've got Cooper Rush sitting there, who's proven you can win football games with him. He's like Brock Purdy. He's going to be safe. He can make the easy throws. You hand the ball off to Tony Pollard. I'm just saying. Just saying that could throw a monkey wrench into the Dak most interceptions bet.
The only thing I will say about that is I think that I agree with you. It's what they should do. We know Cooper Rush can win, but you and I also know Jerry Jones and what he's like, right? And he does not want to let the world know that the quarterback that he drafted out of Mississippi State that no one really thought was going to do that well in the NFL isn't actually doing that well in the NFL. He doesn't want to give away that perception. So I think that there's a chance that it happens if we get 10 weeks into the season and he's thrown 14 interceptions already. Yeah, I think there is a chance, but it would take a lot for Jerry Jones and the entire Jones family really to put their ego in the back pocket and make the move that was best for their football team, should that be the scenario.
That is Sam Yarnell. You can catch him over on X, formerly known as Twitter, Sam_Yarnell. Go and check him out there. Sam, I will see you tomorrow, my friend.
Always fun, Jason.
All right. Before we finish out the show, a thought on tennis, because we're going to have tonight one of, I think, the more special events that you're going to see and tennis gets a chance to sort of own the night tonight. It's a Tuesday night in sports. Yeah, there's baseball on and wild card races and pennant chases and all that stuff is fun, but it's still one game in 162. This is Grand Slam tennis at its highest level with two of the best pure athletes that you are going to watch on a tennis court. And they're Americans. Little national pride. I don't have any problem with that. Frances Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton's not even seeded in this tournament. He couldn't win for love of money coming into this tournament. Now the 20-year-old has taken the U.S. Open by storm. His father was a fantastic tennis player in his own right, was professional for a number of years, a top 50 or top 60 ranked player. And Ben Shelton has captured the hearts and imaginations of tennis fans in this country. Frances Tiafoe was that guy last year. And you start to look at, sort of where we've been over the last several years as it relates to men's American tennis. It's basically been an entire generation since American men's tennis produced a champion in a Grand Slam. Think that over for a bit. I mean, basically as long as Sam has been alive, Sam's never even seen an American male win a Grand Slam tennis event. Not unless he was watching it at 2 or 3 years old, like the E-Trade babies, but I don't think that he was doing that. My sense is that drought could be closer than ever to coming to an end. Last American man to win a singles championship at a Grand Slam. You know who it was? Andy Roddick won the 2003 U.S. Open. 20 years ago. Put that in perspective. Ben Shelton, who we were just talking about, he was 11 months old when Andy Roddick won the last U.S. player to win a men's Grand Slam event. Since that Roddick win, 2 Americans have appeared in a final of a U.S. Open. Roddick did it 4 times. Andre Agassi, remember that name? Did it once. And an American male hasn't appeared in the championship match at a Grand Slam event since 2009. Not even appeared in it. It tells you how long this drought has been. The good news is we're going to know whether that drought ends in less than 5 or 6 days. That's the cash in for this Tuesday, September 5th. Thank you for hanging out with us. Whether you consume us by podcast or whether you're watching on one of the social media video streams, give it a like, give it a subscribe, whatever it is you want to do. Thanks to former NFL safety Nick Ferguson for hanging out. Sam Yarnell, the Prince of Picks. You take his advice at your own peril? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he does today. We'll come back and report on it tomorrow, as we will every day on the show. I'm Jason Page. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us.